We've got Adam Carolla joining us from California. You all know Adam. Adam, appreciate you making the time for us under the circumstances. We know a lot going on. It's a very tough situation. Tell us what you know, what you're seeing, and what everyone needs to be aware of.
So yesterday, I went to the Equinox Gym on Sunset Boulevard and PCH. And I walked out of the place at about 10:45 in the morning, and I looked up Sunset Boulevard, and I said, I think there's a fire up there. And that's exactly where it started, when it started. Then I went into Glendale, California to do my podcast, and subsequently came back to Malibu, where I live, at about 6 in the evening, sat down, and as soon as my ass hit the sofa, we were alerted that it was time to evacuate. So packed up what I needed to get by, and then drove out to Burbank, California, and checked into a hotel where I'm at right now. So obviously I've been following it through the news and talking to neighbors and that sort of thing, but I've not been back since I left last night.
How's your home? Do you know personally how your home has been?
I woke up this morning to a neighbor telling me it was all gone, and then then the neighbor revised the report later on to maybe it's still there. So
that's a big range of reporting from the neighbor, I'll point out.
Yeah, sometimes ladies jump the gun a little bit with the information. So I was pretty devastated this morning, and now I'm in some sort of hopeful phase. But there's really not a great way to get information because you can't go down there and look for yourself. So you watch the news and you see little bits and pieces where you go, oh, that's the restaurant up the street, and you try to cobble together some information, but it's pretty much just sitting on pins and needles waiting to get back there to see if it's gone or not.
Now, Adam, you've probably seen the president already weighed in, has some harsh words for Governor Newsom, as he calls him. So President Trump is going right after it here, and specifically saying that there's been inadequate expansion to the water system and effectively inadequate preparation for an event like this by the state of California, perhaps by Los Angeles County. In addition to that, what is the truth of that? I mean, for people who don't live there, I think it's hard to know what's proposed, what's been considered, and what could have been done. I mean, do you have a read on, is there grotesque incompetence at play here in terms of the preparation for an event like this?
Well, I did 20 minutes on my podcast on today's show, which was on the subject of most of these fires are started by downed power lines. So we have a decrepit power grid, and our power lines are not buried. They're up on power poles, and the power poles are 80 years old. So when the winds hit, they knock the poles down, and the hot wires start the fire, and or when it gets windy, they just shut off all the power. So you have no power in the middle of trying to evacuate because we have a decrepit system. Keep in mind, Newsom is now putting more money into the high-speed rail, which isn't high-speed rail, from Bakersfield to Merced, about 150 miles, way out of California, in the middle of nowhere. Nobody lives in Bakersfield or Merced. They're already $80 billion over budget on it, and I did 20 minutes on why don't we take that $80 billion or the $200 billion it's going to cost to build rail from Merced to Bakersfield, which impacts nobody, and use that money to upgrade our grid and bury those lines. Up and down PCH, where the fire is happening and all the multi-million-dollar houses, there's fire poles fall all over the place. One of their big problems is power lines everywhere. The fire pole catches on fire. The power lines come down. The trucks can't pull in, and you can't evacuate if there's hot wires or even cold power lines on the ground that you don't know are live or not. It's a big issue, and it's insane that we have the same technologies they had in 1875 with the power poles.
You've lived in California, not since 1875, but a lot of people have moved in during your lifetime there, Adam. How would you assess? We were just talking on the show. If that hurricane, God forbid, hits Florida, which happens pretty much every year of different varieties, right now Floridians feel very confident that their governor and their local government is going to do the best job possible responding to that hurricane. What do you think your average Californian thinks about the city and state leadership in California in terms of responding to something like this? What value add, if any, is California getting from its political leadership, or is it actually detracting from the innate goodness of many of the people in the LA area?
Well, as you know, we're all sort of good vibes, and we want the first, African-American woman fire chief and mayor, and we get all into that. But when the S goes down, then we want to know what's going on. I was looking at it today, and I realized we have an incompetent mayor, Karen Bass, who is in India or something, or Africa doing something, collecting beads. I don't know what she was doing over there, but she's incompetent. We don't have a system of reservoirs and water collection and fire hydrants and stuff. It's all a mess, obviously. Think about this. The places that just burned to the ground, the multi-million-dollar houses, and I'm not saying $2 million houses. I'm saying $28 million houses.
Wow.
The houses that burned to the ground in the community were Malibu, Palisades, and Santa Monica, all overwhelmingly blue, all Newsom voters, all Karen Bass voters. They voted for all of this, and now their houses are gone.
Yeah,
that is kind of reaping what you sow on some level, right, Adam? And so many people have left California. I was talking about the number of UCLA and USC flags I see in my Tennessee neighborhood now. But a lot of them moved to Florida, where Buck lives now. As a lifelong Californian, have you thought, hey, is it time to uproot and go somewhere else? Through COVID, I know you travel all over the country doing your shows. But has this maybe, and many of the other things that have just kind of strung together, calamity after calamity for Californians, does it make you want to uproot?
Oh, yeah. I bought land in Henderson, Nevada, and I'm literally leaving after my podcast to head up to Vegas and do some shows, but to go look at my land and meet with the architect and the builder. So, oh, yeah, those plans have been on the table for a long time, because all you do is pay taxes, and it's three parts. It's you pay taxes, you pay an inordinate amount of taxes, you get nothing in return, and they wag their finger at you and want to know why you're not doing more or paying your fair share. You get villainized. So it's not only the part where you don't get anything, and it's not only the part where you pay for everything. Then whenever these guys run for election, they villainize the people that are keeping the lights on in California.
Why do you think, Adam, there isn't a faster recognition of what you're describing right there? Whether someone wants to call it, being red-pilled, I don't know, seeing reality, reacting to events with common sense. Is it just the ideological? They're so ideological, it's dug in that there's not enough suffering from the bad policy to make people want to try leadership that's different. I mean, Gavin Newsom was supposed to be recalled, and then he wasn't.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of converts, and I'll tell you where the conversion happens over to the logical side, over to the right side. When you try to build something, so I'll be fast here, but I've been a builder my whole life. I had to pull permits on everything. When you have to deal with the city and pull permits, that's when you become conservative. And if you hear Bill Maher in the last 5 years sounding a little more like us, he brings up trying to get a solar shack built, right? He wanted to get solar power in his house. He had to pull permits. It took him 3 years. They wouldn't let him do it. And now he sounds like us, because now he's pissed because he doesn't want the bureaucracy. Bill Maher's spoken more about bureaucracy and red tape and burdensome rules in the last 2 years than he has in the 30 years before that. It's because he's trying to do something. all these houses in the Palisades, all the houses in Malibu, all the houses in Santa Monica, when they try to rebuild and a couple of those yentas from the Coastal Commission tell them no, or you're going to have to wait in line, or it's going to take 5 years, that's when they're going to turn.
I know we want your home to be okay. We want you and everybody else out there listening in LA to be fine. Question, since you're in the entertainment space. I know that you have been a Trump supporter for some time. Has the culture of Los Angeles and the culture of Hollywood expanded as it is to many different locations creating content? How have you found it responding to the Trump election this time compared to in 2016 and maybe in 2020? Is there a vibe shift that you can feel?
Yeah, remember, all of Hollywood are mostly cowards, mostly hypocritical cowards. Now, if you don't believe me, that there's runaway production. They all film in Canada. Why they film in Canada? They get a tax break. Then they come back to their homes in Beverly Hills and lecture everyone about paying a little bit more in taxes so others could get a hand up, right? So they're all hypocrites. They're all cowards. And they'll go with whatever flow the nation's going to, especially money-wise. You've seen it with Disney. You've seen it with all these corporations getting rid of DEI now. You've seen it with the tech bros. So they will line up behind Trump just for commerce.
Well, that's a good thing. That's I think also we're seeing that, Adam, with the break in the corporate embargo, boycott, if you will, of all things Trump from Amazon now, or is it Netflix? I know Amazon's doing the $40 million deal with Melania for the
the new Melania
biography,
movie.
right? New Melania movie.
Right.
I mean, are we going to see a lot more of that, Adam? Do you think now they realize that they can't just continue to stiff arm half the country?
I think so. And also, I think as Trump's implemented plans bear fruit and start to be effective, and as the aforementioned Gavin Newsom and the Karen Basses and all the blue cities and the crime on the subway and the fires in Los Angeles, as Los Angeles and New York City start to implode, and as Trump's policies bear fruit, I think you're going to wake up even the heaviest sleepers.
And I would add this too, Adam. Thanks for coming on with us, and we certainly are wishing you the best. You know this, and I've seen it happen a lot. The amount of times you're on a television show or you're on some sort of production, and guys come up who have the cameras, or guys come up who are building the sets, and they just whisper, something like, "Hey, man, I'm with you. You're right about everything." There's actually a huge contingent, even in the entertainment space, that agrees with a lot of what we say every single day.
Oh, yeah. And it's always the sort of blue-collar side of it. It's always the guys on the dark side of the bright lights,
Yeah.
The grips and the cameramen, the truck drivers, all those guys, the Teamsters. They're always the guys who quietly tell you they agree and then pull their mask back up real quick and saunter away.
That's right. Adam, best of luck. Thank you for making the time. I know it's a crazy time right now out in LA. If you hear anything else you want to call in and update us, feel free. We appreciate it, man.
I will. Thanks for having me, guys.
For sure. That's Adam Carolla, awesome dude out in LA, lifelong Californian. You just heard it from him. He's building a place in Nevada, which, by the way, has become really, really commonplace. The amount of people that are relocating to Nevada, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, low-tax states are bringing in a lot of people that have the ability and flexibility to move. We welcomed a new sponsor of the program last year, Michigan company called Rapid Radios. Guess what? Modern-day walkie-talkies, the kind you can talk to anyone across the entire United States with a one-touch button. Buck used them. We talked about this back when the Western North Carolina awful Hurricane Helene happened and all of the infrastructure for communication was down. Rapid Radio still worked. They're not your average walkie-talkies. They work on a nationwide LTE network, making it possible for you to connect with family members coast to coast, let alone employees and friends. You have a Rapid Radio. They have a Rapid Radio. You can pick it up, connect effortlessly. If you remember being a kid playing with radios back in the day, maybe in a pre-internet, pre-cell phone era, you got in that car. If you had two different cars, you were driving somewhere, you could talk to another kid in the car. Maybe your parents could talk. CB radios certainly have been common for truckers for a long time. These work amazing all over the country. Great communication device for kids as well. Maybe you don't want to give them a cell phone. Maybe you want to stay in touch with them, but you don't want them to be able to have access to the internet because you're worried about what that might lead to. You can go online to rapidradios.com. You'll get up to 60% off free UPS shipping from Michigan, plus a free protection bag. Add code radio, get an extra 5% off. Rapidradios.com, 60% off, code radio.